we're trained to run away from conflict, right? There are people who do
Yes.
conflict well. And then there are people like first responders who run to conflict and crisis. And I say embrace conflict and crisis because that's when people of value are needed most. And so when you think about your culture, when you think about being a leader and what you're trying to do, it doesn't matter what industry you're in, there's always going to be conflict. And I always say to people, whatever role you're in, if there was no conflict, then your job would probably be obsolete. We wouldn't need, right? I mean, we wouldn't need you
Right.
because it'd be something we can automate, or it'd be
Right.
something that, would be easy to do. So if there is conflict and crisis, I say embrace it because I come from a writing background, and storytelling is, I think, one of the key skills that any leader could have. And the thing that you have to remember about a story, and it's why I wrote my business book as a story first, is that in any great story, and think about any book you read, any movie that you've watched, in any great story, there's a beginning, a middle, and an end. And there's that moment in the beginning, right, where the action starts, and then what happens? Conflict, right? Every great story has conflict, so the hero can overcome the conflict.
Right.
And then we have a resolution at the end. If I told you I woke up today and I had eggs for breakfast and I had a nice cup of coffee and I sat down at my desk and I did 5 hours of work and then I had a good dinner and I went to bed, that's not a story. That's a horrible story. Who wants to who's going to pay $5.99 for that, right?
Right.
But a great story is about overcoming conflict. And the thing that I say embrace it is because, and it took me close to 30 years now to really understand this, out of those stories, out of those moments of conflict and crisis, what you get, and I mentioned it later on down the road, are signature stories. You
Mm.
get those stories that you helped someone overcome something. Maybe it was your own, but maybe you helped a customer, maybe you helped a colleague, maybe you helped a team, maybe you helped the entire company, whatever it is. But by embracing the conflict and crisis, you know that there's going to be conflict here, but you also know that out of the resolution, whatever it may be, you're going to get a great story out of it. And that
Mm.
story becomes part of your brand. It becomes part of the culture. And I know that from the organizations that I've worked at and with over the years, there are those stories that were really based on conflict and crisis that people tell over and over and over again. It becomes part of the culture.
Right.
But it only but those stories are only good if they have the conflict and crisis to overcome. So that's what I mean by that.
Absolutely. Yeah. You're making me think of like, um, to me, this is entrepreneurship at its core, right? So you're taking the entrepreneurial spirit and applying it to individual leaders, and not just thinking of like, how am I going to start a business? But to me, the definition of entrepreneurship is solving a problem, right? So if you're always running away from problems, you're never solving, right? So
No,
if you embrace conflict and crisis and you say, all right, what opportunity is here for me to be of service, for me to solve a painful problem for somebody? Wow, just to think of the value that you add for your organization,
yeah,
whether
that's it.
you don't even have to be a leader. You could just be any employee, even a frontline new person, 3 days on the job. I mean, that's that entrepreneurial mindset applied to the organization instead of external customers.
Yeah, and you mentioned a good point, right? Because when you are helping someone with a problem, the key word there is help, right? And so I bring it back to, I tell people that they need a purpose statement, just like an organization has a mission and a credo. Each individual leader needs to have a purpose statement, and that starts with the phrase, I help people.
Mm,
And I help people what? That's up to you, right?
right.
That. But if I said to you, Matt, if we met for the first time and I said, what do? You might tell me, your title. You might tell me, that you've written, a number of books. You might tell me all this stuff. But if we met, somewhere over a drink or something, and I said, what do you do? And you said, I help people blank, whatever that is, that's much more interesting than whatever your title or industry is, because now I want to know more. I want to know how you help people. So to your point, if you're approaching these problems, based on this conflict, and you are there to help someone other than yourself, that's a great culture. Now you've got a whole mess of people, whether it's an entrepreneurial shop of 20 or you've got 20,000 across the globe. If everybody there is really, their purpose is to help their customers, their colleagues, whomever, that's a great culture.